Wells by the sea, North Norfolk. By the harbour, you buy the boats and the chip shops. With little or no plan other than some vague blueprint in my head about motorcycling approximately around the coast of Britain, I start another journey on my R1. I'd no idea what it was about and quite where I was going, other than keeping the sea on my left. So I set off to meet a few people, in this case an art gallery dealer called Stuart.
I guess it's because of the unspoiled coastline and the big blue skies, which everyone sort of associates with Norfolk, and particularly the North Norfolk coast, and it's so flat, so it gives brilliant light, I suppose.
How important is the light?
It's crucial. It's everything about paintings, of course, and that's what artists have been trying to capture for generations and, you know, hundreds of years. Capturing the right light is all about, you know, how they perceive that area and how they're feeling and how that area makes them feel at that moment. So it's crucial.
I guess it was the geek in me, but I find all forms of transport exciting, and when I saw the train, I had to get onto the footplate and have a natter.
Oh, thank you. Hello, mate. How are you?
Yeah.
You all right?
Yeah.
How's it going?
All right. Good day.
What's it like being a train driver? Do you like it?
I'm the fireman.
Are you a fireman?
Yeah. Yeah.
Oh, fantastic, huh? It's a bit mad, isn't it?
Bit hot.
Yeah, a bit hot.
Yeah.
Nice in winter.
Yeah. It's all right, winter.
Yeah. Oh, well done. This is amazing. Thank you. Look at that.
The train pulls away. Whilst in the booking hall, ancient adverts suggest that this is not of now. At Sheringham Station, people disembark from old carriages, charmingly reflecting a warm sun against the rippling coachwork.
What's it like being a train driver?
It's all right. It's a hobby. Yeah.
Old leather suitcases and trunks with buckled straps give the impression that we're in another time. This journey is a parallel journey. As for me, they all are. And strangely, it reminded me of Parallel World. Down the road, I went to a fantastic little place, the Norfolk Motorcycle Museum, and met the owner, Steve.
We've been doing the museum about 15 years, but my father's been collecting bikes and cars for about 40, 50 years really. I sort of started riding bikes when I ran the garden when I was about 10 or 11, so it's always in my blood. So we set the museum going about 15 years ago, doing restoration and sort of keeping the attraction together and trying to put all various different bikes together so people can see the heritage of motorcycling really.
I mean, I think museums are important just to show our culture that it used to be, whether it be bikes or whatever. But bikes obviously are part of our past.
It represents everything that is great about the British engineering from the past. The mechanisms of these old bikes is something that I like to preserve.
We basically run the museum as an attraction for people to come and have a good look round, to revisit their youth, to bring back some old memories of friends still alive or past, just generally trying to keep the heritage of motorcycles going really.
What do you like about biking?
It's the freedom, the individuality. It's nice just to get out, get the wind through your hair, so to speak, and just to try and enjoy the countryside, really.
One of the great things about places like this is that they represent a kind of British eccentricity. They are part of the great institutions of originality, if you think of it like that. The fact that it's not conforming, it's not, you know, the bikes aren't stacked up and labelled in a very correct way. It is, as Steve says, it's a hodgepodge of vehicles just kind of sort of stacked in a random, slightly chaotic kind of way. But that's what I like, because there's so much conforming, you know, in Britain at the moment, and places like this represent somewhere where you can feel a bit freer.
On the bulge of eastern Britain, across the wide and windswept Norfolk countryside, the sea's eating away at the landscape, taking bits of England on a different kind of journey. Habsburg, where fields and even buildings are beginning to fall into the sea. Small museum at nearby Dunwich. Here's John the curator, who explained what was happening.
It's about the lost city of Dunwich. In medieval times, Dunwich was the largest city in East Anglia. Its population, in fact, was half that of London at that time, 4,500 people.
There used to be lots of fishermen at Aldborough, but now only a handful ply their trade. Out every morning with the tide, back with a catch before breakfast. The town, known for its great music festival, is delightful, possessing a quaintness and taste that only somewhere near the sea can provide. And then it was the turn of Whitstable, one of my favourite haunts, a place I used to visit to see my mates when I was a lad. How things change. Britain isn't as quiet as it was 20 years ago. The Ace Cafe had organised a gathering in Margate, and coincidentally I'm there when the circus rolls into town. Bikers, big, small, fat and thin, congregate at the altar of bikiness. This journey is becoming the hardest of all to interpret. When you ride across some subcontinent with some esoteric and complex culture, it remains just that, hard to understand. Here, everything you see is familiar, too familiar, and sometimes that's a lot to take in.
What do you think about Margate?
It used to be nice, but it's become a bit of a dive, to say the least. But it needs more events like this to bring it back up.
It's not that Margate is an easy place to dislike, it's not that at all. More like you rely so heavily on its biking history, the rock and roll, the mods and the rockers, you just want to have been there then. Early evening at St Margaret's at Cliff, Noel Coward's house, and the first place the morning sun shines on the British Isles. How many of us biking home from faraway parts have been relieved to see the White Cliffs? The next day at Dover Harbour, groups of people were training to swim across the channel. Charlie the coach explains.
There's one girl, she's in a wheelchair at the present moment, trained to swim the channel. And I hope, and I think she will, use the first handicapped person to swim the Brighton peer-to-peer race. But the young lady in the wheelchair, she's out there now for another 4 hours. And I'm very lucky to have the young lady here, Frida Streeter, whose daughter is the Queen of the Channel, swimming it 44 times.
I've been on the beach here for 27 years, every Saturday and Sunday from May to September. I had an incredible amount of people here through me. For instance, David Williams came and finished off his training with us, but then Adrian Morehouse came to us ages ago, and I'm afraid Adrian was another one who just could not tolerate the cold. We could not get Adrian above 3 hours in this water. That is just not fun out there. The channel can throw all sorts of things at you, and you've got to be able to overcome them. So you've got to be a very, very strong person. Not necessarily physically. I reckon that channel is 90% mental.
It's in the head. It's not a physical thing. It's not a training thing. It's not a fitness thing. It's whether you can drive yourself beyond all limits.
You go through all sorts of bad patches out there. You run out of energy, and then your body has to convert and start using the fat, you know, that's there, your reserves, and that can be actually quite painful. It's like hitting a brick wall. But once you break through that brick wall, yeah, the sky's the limit, and they're fine.
You know, I've driven myself before to the point where I've been unconscious.
Most people could do it, but you've got to be very, very strong mentally.
I found what I could do, I found what I was good at, and I wanted to be the best. And if I can't be the best, I'll have a damn good go at being the best.
My daughter's the record holder. She's swum this channel 43 times. She's the only girl in the world to have done it 3 ways without stopping, which was 34 hours, 40 minutes. And yeah, you know, the only thing that I can say, apart from the fact that she's mad,
it's in you, really. It's either you've got that ability to drive yourself beyond the limit, and it's not just me. It's any sport, really. If you take any extreme sport, anyway, people who sail around the world, people who climb Everest, people who run long distances, you just got to be able to drive yourself.
Biking around Britain's coast is like eating all the toffees in a sweet shop until you make yourself sick. It's not a question of what to see, but what can possibly be left out. Filmmaker Derek Jarman's cottage near Dungeness, his last home before he died, the wooden equivalent of Graceland, in a wasteland that stretches out to a sea, hidden by a horizon of pebbles. It's a desert of stones by a power station. Brighton, and we're still by the sea. And up a little side street I bumped into more lovely, wonderful, quintessentially eccentric Britishers, Jane Bombane and partner outside a cafe.
Well, I suppose there's a certain eccentricity about the English.
It's a mixed bag of migrants from many centuries.
And a certain sense of humour. Maybe Brighton captures that.
Licence for eccentricity.
They think I'm barking sometimes.
There is that kind of island race about it. I don't know, really. I quite like the idea of being European. Very much for candy floss and kiss me quick hats. But trying to put my finger on it, not quite sure immediately. There's a certain inhibition about being English as well, I think.
There's a soprano in the shower, it's soprano shower hour, tra-la-la. The sound of vocal warm-ups in it has him steamier by the minute, tra-la-la. The thought of diva moist and singing has his head and senses ringing, and his thoughts are those of sinning in the spray. He don't know how to stop him rushing into where the water's gushing. If you ask me if I'm blushing, I should say.
Icing on the cake came all about because I was a cake maker, and then I discovered I had a singing voice. Oh, sorry, I forgot I was looking at you, Nick. I start again. I love making cakes, and I also love singing, so to put the two together I think is a wonderful thing. I truly believe cakes made with love in the heart, they've got to taste better, haven't they? I suppose chocolate cake is a must. Or you can go into my cupcake range and we can have ginger cake with chili chocolate ganache. We can have lavender cake. We can have coconut cake with rose icing. Yeah, cakes are pretty important to me. In fact, they're very English, aren't they?
Englishness in music manifests itself in many ways. There's the Englishness of Elgar, which is all empire, loyalty and all that sort of stuff and pomp and circumstance, which we all love whether or not we believe in it. There's the Englishness of Vaughan Williams, taking English folk songs and building symphonies out of them, also known as the Cowpats school of music. But it's all about English values of loyalty and patriotism and all those out-of-date things.
From a soprano to a baritone of motorcycle engines, all filtering into the town for the annual Brighton Run. There were thousands of beautiful bikes, fabulous enthusiasts who love more than anything to come out and play. It also brought out the weird and the unusual.
I love Brighton, it's an amazing place, and I just love dressing wild and just extravagant and love being amazing.
In the shower, it's a
The route along the south coast took me from Dover to Brighton and then further on past Bournemouth to Barton-on-Sea, from a land of vaudeville and back to the land of motorcycles and Sammy Miller's museum. To be honest, I never really got to grip with the sheer variety of his bikes, which he'd spent a lifetime collecting. But I like meeting Sammy and always popped in when passing.
I should say.
We're on Barton-on-Sea here, which is just about a mile down the road. Actually, from the courtyard of the museum, you can see the Isle of Wight. And of course, Barton-on-Sea is when I was in the peak of my trials career. I used to practice down on the beach every night on the rocks and on the hills and climb. You couldn't do it today because all the Greenpeace lot would be, you know, locking you up. Ever since I was at school, I always dreamed of riding and racing motorcycles. Of course, in Ulster, you know, you've got the famous road races, the Ulster Grand Prix, the Northwest 200 and the TT just across the Irish Sea a little bit. So every boy in Northern Ireland dreamed of racing motorcycles, and that was my dream from the ever since I remember. We were on push bikes, racing a bike from 6, 7 years old, and we lived out in the country, so there was plenty of open roads, and I really got the bug from then. I've always loved motorcycles and the technically interesting bikes, and all the great designers from England, you know, who made all the fantastic racing Nortons and AJSs and Porcupines and Excelsior Manxmans and Excelsior mechanical marvels. And when we were young, there was no television, so we read lots of books, and all these things register in my mind about the fantastic technically developments, the wonderful achievements of the British machines, and it's been a pleasure for me to collect them and get them running and restore them. And
Sammy was having an Italian bike day, so his forecourt started filling up with Ducatis. There's something really English about biking on a summer's day, coming together in groups to meet your mates and talk bikes. It's like you turn up to a meet like this knowing no one, and then you leave with 10 great friends. After Sammy, I rode on to meet that other great English institution, painter Roy Barrett.
I'm an artist that uses a very English medium to portray a very English subject, and that is motorcycles put into their social context. I like to try to put a little story in my work, and a lot of those stories come from the social aspect of the motorcycle. For example, in the 50s, the motorcycle became a huge icon for the teenager, so there's lots of wonderful stories about young lads going off to coffee bars, riding out to the seaside for an ice cream with their girls, and those little stories are what traditionally watercolour painters in this country have portrayed for centuries. The coast is one of those destinations that has attracted motorcyclists for decades. You can probably hear motorcycles going past our house at this very moment, and they are riding down to West Bay, which is only a few miles away, because that is a great meeting point. It also means that the lads have got somewhere exciting to go. They've got a destination, and nothing better than riding a motorcycle in this sort of weather, knowing you're going to end up at a wonderful little coastal spot to meet your mates, have an ice cream, a bag of chips. It's that English seaside thing.
There are places like West Bay all over Britain, especially beside the coast. You can turn up as a stranger, but because you're on a bike, you're a mate. Anyway, I asked this bloke about what English biking meant to him.
It's kind of English people are more mental for bike racing, aren't they? You know what I mean? Like TT's going on at the moment, all the foreigners haven't got the balls to ride it, who are apparently the best riders in the world, and there's English blokes who nobody's ever heard of whipping the pants off them, do you know what I mean? Day in, day out. It's kind of some English madness, do you know what I mean?
The bike is performing well, so well I've nothing really to say except that it's grey and pretty and just a phenomenal ride. I also know from my experience during Parallel World that I could easily take it across 400 miles of unmade African roads. It's an exceptional bike, the R1, both last year's model and this new one. Lyme Regis, then on as ever to somewhere else. Dartmouth in the sunshine, where I found the small vehicle ferry that would take me across the River Tame. It was great on the boat. It reminded me of all the other slightly bigger river crossings I'd taken my bike. The Nile in Sudan, the Danube, the Ganges. Dartmouth was one of the prettiest little towns I'd come across, and I made a mental note to come back again one day and stay for longer. The next day I'm in Land's End, and like John O'Groats, it has for me little intrinsic significance. However, this great block of wave-washed granite and westernmost tip of the British mainland is visited and enjoyed by over 1 million people every year. And on a nice day it really is very pretty. But it's also a very long way from anywhere.
Land's End, one of the bonkers places where you kind of go and do things to get to John O'Groats, which is about 890 odd miles, I think. And I did it once actually. I rode my bike from here to there in about 12 hours, 37 minutes. Ridiculously, recklessly, I suppose.
I came, I saw, I rode on to somewhere else. It was ever this, and in my head, I'm in the Syrian desert, racing across a harsh landscape. And at the same time, on the B3306 to St Just and on through Morva, Trevauen and Zena, and along one of the prettiest sections of the journey so far to St Ives. The bike flipped gently around narrow but forgiving corners, and as the fields sloped to the sea, they revealed a sun-laden view of the most stunning proportions. I've been cherry-picking the cool places and the nice weather, but now it was raining, so I rode up North Devon and across South Wales to start again in Aberystwyth. If you go by beach, the coast of Britain is over 6,000 miles and nearly 5,000 if you take every small road. I reckon this journey will be about 3,500. Anyway, I needed a change of tyres at Cambrian. Tyres that took me across the Nubian should be good enough around here. Sunday, and as usual bikers congregated on the promenade. I just hung around, drifted a bit, wondering where to go next, then realised there were club races on up the road at Tonfanai. So I shot off past Borth and my hometown of Machynlleth, which is situated on the bridging point of the Dovey estuary. Courtesy of the crew and South Cheshire Motorcycle Club, ordinary lads get the chance to be a road racer for the day. Once the sheep poo's been brushed off the track and everything swept away, there's also something famously local about being here, like being in a big family. Nice shiny bikes with the potential for throwing their bikes down the road. And then hey up, someone's come off.
What happened?
Come round on a wide line, trying to make some places up because I got a bad start and lost the front twice, regathered it, and then the back went, and I just went hurtling across the grass.
Okay.
Get on the track.
Yeah.
Is that a gear?
Yes, it is, yeah.
Oh, blimey.
The exhaust system's alright.
What happened?
Just lost the front. Hello.
Hello, mate.
Just lost the front trying to go around the outside of him.
Why didn't you get him on the straight?
Because he's too fast on the straight, because that's not 400.
Right.
You didn't mean to do that, did you,
No,
Alistair?
definitely not. Consider I'm going to the Southern 100 in 4 days' time. No.
Oh, you bird.
Even with the third on, you know.
What do you think about them all falling off?
I think the Burks. I could think of better things to do on a Sunday afternoon, on a lovely day.
Overlooking the estuary, I see houses dotted about the hillside, half hidden in a swathe of impenetrable coniferous forests. But all I could hear was the sound of loose planks on the little toll bridge underneath the weight of my bike. Cumulus clouds have grown all morning and the forecast is for thunder. But it's not that very little happens in places like this, it's just that it's not always obvious. Then I rode into Barmouth. St Tigwin's Church backs onto the beach and is one of the oldest Christian places of worship in Britain. Artefacts near the nave are dated 550 AD, and 1500 years ago the area was crisscrossed by monastic routes that would take travellers to Ireland. The coast between the Dovey and Artro estuaries is one long sandy shore, supported in the background by Cara Idris and the Rhinog Mountains. Neat stone-built villages connect up the coast road, culminating in Llandudno as the Victorian railhead. A delightful town in contrast to the centre of Rhyl, which looks unkempt and shabby. East of the centre, bungalows are lined up in rows and are beautifully cared for, scattered around tidy gardens in what becomes a proud edge of town.
Liverpool. But I like the new, but I like the old. I love the charisma of dilapidated places. Like this, it's some kind of old bridge by Clarence Docks near Tobacco Warehouse, and it's completely run down, and it's moss driven, and it's a bit skanky, but it means character. I like that.
Southport, however, with its mock historical columns and comfortable spaces, showed us how a seaside resort could look. A lot of money had been spent on this town, and it looked $1 million. The route from Southport took me past the western edge of the Cheshire Plain, skirting the Lake District before poking out into Dumfries.
Founded by the wife of John Balliol, who was a great beneficiary to the Balliol College, Oxford, in 1273, this abbey, Sweetheart Abbey near Dumfries, was built to commemorate his death, and his heart, whilst it was still warm and bloody, supposedly, so the legend goes, was interned in the very walls. And this is what I find so extraordinary about this journey around the coast of Britain. It's so deep and so intense. Every small stretch of coastline is immersed in enormous history. And this cottage is John Paul Jones's birthplace. He was one of the founding fathers of the American Navy. Mistrusted by the Russians, hated by the English, loved by the French, and of course by the Americans. In a way, he was like a mini Napoleon. A very celebrated sailor.
Where does all this come from? So quickly, so fleetingly, so completely rich in character. Each twist and turn of the narrow lanes releases secrets after secrets on this Solway coast. This is the parallel coast that juxtaposes a saint's cave by a beach, St Ninian, with a place, the Colvin Cafe, that sells cappuccinos, where an object of loyalty to Queen Victoria, the granite clock tower in the centre of Creetown, contrasts in spirit and allegiance with the words of the poet, Rabbie Burns, when he wrote in the Murray Arms Hotel in 1793 at the Gatehouse of Fleet, Scots, Wahawi, Wallace bled. After 3 days in the rain, riding from Blackpool to Girvan, an extraordinary light begins to reflect off dark clouds. In the harbour, two men fillet wormy things, and across the way, the Harbour Fish restaurant has a place set for me fish tea. That afternoon, I ride on through Glasgow and towards the Highlands. Suddenly, after taking 5 weeks to get here from Hunstanton to the mountains, the big space finally begins to beckon. I take the motorway out to the Erskine Bridge across the Clyde to Old Kilpatrick, and then northwest for Dumbarton and the A82 along the western shore of Loch Lomond. The city, with its stink, no longer exists except as a memory, and the bike begins to make its familiar purr.
Everybody knows the Green Valley. It's completely famous. Any biker knows the Green Valley.
We're right in the middle of several triangles of roads. So all the bikers come to us and then head off in the second leg of the triangle and then back home again.
Because that's where they stop, that's where the meeting place. Come from all over, even scooters come.
Going to Kinloch leaving and then we're going up onto Applecross.
The place is packed out with them. But it's kind of second generation, it's not the young bikers, it's the old middle-aged bikers.
I've only started biking in the last 5 years. The roads are deserted, there's no cars in there. Through the week you can get away with sort of 2 cars every mile or whatever.
I think the roads are good, lots of
great scenery and big sweeping bends. We stopped quite a few times. That's one of the main things, the scenery.
Lovely roads, great surfaces. Just it's a really nice place to be, you know, and you've got really good views.
The entire environment here, it's just a beautiful country. Perfect conditions, ideal for riding.
The Germans were still working on their riding and were equally good at overbalancing in tight situations. And that's not because they were poor riders, oh no. It was because they were excellent and methodical packers, so good they carried too much, as one of the lads explained.
This is a beer can of Cerveza San Miguel. And I opened it, and there's some food in it.
Eilean Castle lies on the main tourist route to the Isle of Skye, an icon of Scotland, used in the film Highlander, and is one of the most photographed castles north of the border. Next stop, Fort William, and then the Pass of the Cattle. That's the Pass of the Cattle on the way to Applecross, Western Highlands of Scotland. And you know, on a good day, this is not just one of the best roads in the UK, it's got to be one of the best roads in the world. Western Highlands of Scotland. I've made it. This is it. This is where it all happens. The unearthed beauty, the unspoilt everything. Ullapool, Highland fishing village, cute, contained, and with a microclimate that is often warm and dry. For me, this is the gateway to Top Scotch, that bit of road which takes you across Britain at one of the narrowest points. And by the fishing fleet, I met a group of Indian riders on their own journey.
And for me, it's a perfect motorcycle when you are interested in old motorcycles, because you can go on long roads. You can go long ways with that bike.
I tell you something about the universal head of my father. You can smoke, kiss, eat and drink, but you don't have to fall down with it.
When you like traveling with an old motorcycle, for me it's Indian number one. And I have also a second one, an Indian Scout from 101 is the model, and a lot of other old motorcycles, but the number one is India.
The route continued north, unwavering, and into the heartlands of North Scotland.
Oh, do you know, it's great actually. It's a biker's dream being on such single track roads. Here we are in the northwestern tip of the Highlands. And I can see the Cape Wrath from here. It's about 12 miles away actually. It's over the hills, but I can't get there on a bike because, you know, I need a ferry and it's just for passengers. But I'm very close to Durness, and I'll take the Top Scots Road from Durness, obviously in the direction of John O'Groats, Thurso and Wick. Yeah, it's great. It's been a wonderful experience just having almost the roads to myself. Yeah, it's been brilliant.
It's so typical of being a biker that you can be in the middle of nowhere, Durness, and you'll meet another mob where you can strike up an intelligent conversation. Did I say intelligent?
Just give them an example of your wild boar.
I can't do it to all.
No, come on.
That is what my snoring sounds like. It's not pleasant. I keep waking up in the night and my wife's just not there.
It's not human. It's not
I think she goes next door now. Keeps moving further down the street.